And we're turning our attention now to French football, and French football writer Philippe Auclair joins us on the line. Morning, Philippe.
Morning to you.
Thanks for taking our call. France's sports ministry has ordered an investigation into allegations of sexual harassment and a toxic culture against its president. It seems there are several cases been reported by Saint Foot, the French football magazine, and the federation saying this week that they'll sue Saint Foot for defamation. Where is it all at? And bring our viewers who are unfamiliar with the story up to speed if you can.
If I can, because it's a long story and it has a number of characters. And by the way, there are two things here. One of them is the allegations made by Saint Foot, which is basically they paint a picture of a French FA in which basically anything goes, and from the top to the bottom almost, with inappropriate behavior, to say the least, inappropriate texts, inappropriate, behavior of all kind towards, in particular, female members of the staff by a number of people high up in the French FA, including, of course, the French FA president, Noël Le Graët, who is now 80 years old, has been in place for, it seems, forever. The most powerful man in French football, perhaps, and whose authority he's now more than questioned. I don't think that he'll be able to stay in place for very long, to be honest, now that the ministry has decided to take on the affair. And also, on top of that, there is what Saint Foot has printed, but there's also what Josimar, the Norwegian magazine, of which I have to say, full transparency here, I'm a contributor. Romain Molina, the French investigative journalist, has published a absolutely harrowing account of basically years and years of silence around sexual abuse cases which were reported to the French FA and not passed on to the authorities. A very, very serious matter indeed. And I think the conjunction of those two things, basically media in France and in Norway, putting all of this in the open, is forcing the Ministry of Sports, who, to be honest, hadn't been made aware of what was going on, to look at it very in greater depth. And I think that a number of people are probably going to lose their positions, but it's a long overdue look at what is happening in the corridors of football power in France. And believe me, what's happening there is not pretty.
It's a very aggressive response from the federation to say that they may sue for defamation. An unusual response almost in some ways. Philippe, you would almost expect that they would, even from a PR point of view, want to have an image of self-reflection here.
Yes, and I think it's a completely wrong miscalculation. I've read the article by Saint Foot again, by the way, this very morning, and I thought, okay, it was very punchy. Some of the things that they said were very incriminating, but looking at it, I'm wondering, is there anything really defamatory in that? I mean, the French defamation and libel laws are not quite the same as they would be in the United Kingdom, or I'm told in Ireland, where they're extraordinarily strict. And loaded towards the person who is the target allegations. In France, it would rather be the opposite. When you think, for example, that a French website, Blast, was able to print out a claim that the philosopher Bernard-Henri Lévy had taken something like 11 million euros directly from the government, was sued and won its trial, despite the fact of there having absolutely no proof that this had been the case. You think that the French FA, you would think twice about calling into question things, such as the testimonies which have been published by Saint Foot, the excerpts from telephone conversations that they've been quoting. It seems that they're on very solid ground here. And my reading of it is that they felt that they had no other choice this time than to react, because otherwise it was going to spread and spread and spread, and to become impossible to go any further. So in a way, perhaps it was a means to stop other media propagating what Saint Foot had been writing, because obviously it had been reported in many major media, which Saint Foot is not. It's a well-read, popular magazine, but it's not, like a François or Libération. I say François, not François, Le Monde or Libération, Le Figaro. It is a small publication, but the news was starting to be taken on by other media, much more important media, and put out in the open to the whole of the French public opinion. And I think that they decided, okay, we want to stop the rot right now. So we're going to sue for defamation, which means that other people who would want to quote from that piece might also find themselves in trouble and decide we're not covering this anymore. Well, this has badly misfired. because now the dossier is with the minister. It's all over the front pages in France. I mean, French football is all over the front pages in France for all the wrong reasons at the moment, I'm afraid.
Philippe, just interesting to read some comments from Noël Le Gret earlier in the week when he was speaking to L'Equipe about his future in the role. He was talking about, if my health remains stable, if I'm well, there's absolutely no reason for me to stop. I'm very good at my job and everyone likes me. I'm lucky to be appreciated. But he hasn't actually responded publicly to the accusations as of yet, has he?
No, hasn't. And I think that it's now the matter is sub judice, so it's a perfect means for them as well to stay silent about it, saying it's now, there's a defamation action on, so therefore I cannot possibly comment on that. And as to the opinion he has of himself, it's his right prerogative to have it. I'm afraid that in France it's perhaps the only one at the moment.
We will watch events and no doubt catch up with you on that again down the track. Talk to us about other, and in the context of what we've just been speaking about, much less serious developments, but Kylian Mbappe's grip on French football is extending now to the French Football Federation, it seems, this week. I read with, I don't know what exactly my emotion was, but the possibility that KFC were going to sue the French Football Federation potentially, although I see they've since reversed out of that position.
Yes.
For the Mbappe's failure to endorse their product. Where is this story at the minute, and how is it going to unfold?
Well, I mean, the story is actually fascinating, and it's actually a very important story. I know it might sound crazy when you think it's about fried chicken and a professional footballer. What's the point? No, the point is very serious, that Kylian Mbappe told the French Federation that he would not take part in the photo shoot, which had been planned at the training camp. And the reason why he refused to take part in this photo shoot to start with was because his image rights were not respected, and the French Federation was not dealing with the problem of image rights properly, which is a bigger issue, as you can understand. And there was panic, obviously, in the French Federation camp. So they hastily put together a statement in which they said they would look again at the convention, the agreement, if you will, between their players and the federation when it comes to exploiting their image rights for FFF commercial sponsors or partners. So it's actually a big story because A, Mbappe won, which is not exactly a surprise. He's the boss. And B, I think it will encourage a number of other footballers of that caliber to go to their federations and to say, you know what, you're using our likeness to promote this, to promote that. Very often we're not even aware of the fact that our faces are used to promote this, promote that. And this actually is going to, I think, create quite a stir and have a big impact on the way that footballers relate in economic terms, that is, to their federation and to the national team. But in this particular case, there could only be one winner, and the winner is, of course, Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, I spent some time in France over the summer and got to see up close the love that there is for Kylian Mbappe, and I wondered if this, in conjunction with obviously the spat that's ongoing at PSG, whether it impacts negatively on his brand or it just grows the brand of Kylian Mbappe now.
I think these are two different things. What's happened at PSG, the fact that people keep talking about the relationship between the triangle, that is, Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, and what's happened with this image rights. I think when it comes to the image rights, I think most people would say he's perfectly in his right to do what he wants to do. And if he doesn't want to take part in a photo shoot, he doesn't want to take part in a photo shoot. I mean, there's a slight part of... I have to say, I mean, I would call it hypocrisy or certainly double standards when it comes to the player, because I'm not aware of the fact that once he might object to publicize a fast food brand on, for health reasons, ethical reasons, the number of things that PSG is partnering, including very shady betting operators, and it doesn't seem to have a problem with that. So I think there's a little bit of double standards here. We shall see.
Philippe, I'm just while we're speaking about PSG and Ligue 1, looking at one of the games at the weekend, a red card after a matter of seconds, 40 seconds, 9 seconds. Sorry,
9 seconds,
the previous
yes.
record was 40, of course. And like looking at the stats and the numbers so far this season, so 11 red cards during game week 3 of the Ligue 1 season was the most given in a single game week since records began in the 91 to 92 season, and they have by far, when you compare Ligue 1 to other top leagues across Europe at the minute, 34 red cards already given in Ligue 1 in just 8 game weeks. The next highest is La Liga, which has 20, so 14 less. Like and it's the same, by the way, in Ligue 2, Ligue 2 in France as well. 43 red cards, the highest of any major division in Europe. What's going on, Philippe? Have referees been told to stamp down for stronger this season, or what's happening in France football at the minute?
Well, you've given the answer here. Yes, there have been instructions given to referees to be a bit stricter in their application of the laws, and they've certainly taken that instruction very seriously. And basically, they're showing red cards here, there, and everywhere. They've always been card happy in French football. I mean, more card happy than in other leagues. Certainly, more card happy than in the Bundesliga or the Premier League. It's just this year it's gone completely crazy. And what is even crazier is that we are now using VAR, and very often the VAR would give a referee a little bit of leeway to reconsider, his opinion. Of what has happened on the pitch. And in this particular case, it seems almost to have encouraged people to brandish more red cards. And that's not great for the spectacle, because a game in which a defender is sent off after 9 seconds, I mean, he's only going to finish one way, is it? So again, there's a debate about that. And also, I think more interestingly, there is a debate when it comes to international football, because these referees, some of them also referee in European competitions. And if the standards are not the same, say in England, where referees have been given the precisely opposite instruction, which is to let the game flow as much as possible and perhaps to excess. And in France, we have the very opposite. Well, we need to know, when it comes to Europe, be it club or national team competitions, what exactly is the standard that people should expect? How should our referees referee, I don't know, in the Nations League or the Europa Conference League, whatever, if they come from completely different approaches of the laws of football? And that's what we have at the moment. And perhaps the difference is greater today, I would imagine, than it's probably ever been in terms of the way that the laws are put into practice by the referees. And that's a little bit concerning.
It's funny, like, if nothing else, it's probably a strange sociological experiment in that, a lot of the players playing in Ligue 1 who maybe go on to the World Cup, are we going to see them being more conservative in the tackle, talking back less to referees? I'd be interested to see what impact this is going to have.
It's very interesting, actually, what you're saying. And it might actually impair some of those players. You don't know, they might not go for a tackle which would be accepted in an international competition, but which in France would be seen very harshly by the referee, and they might actually change their view. Isn't it a bit much to ask players themselves to switch from one understanding of the way the law is going to be applied from one competition to the next? Is that normal? I don't think so.
It does seem unfair. Philippe, thanks a million.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Philippe Auclair on the line, and there's plenty more to talk to Philippe about, again, down the track as well, in terms of the actual football on the field as well. The excitement about William Saliba particularly is big there, and not to mention Canada. So there's loads of stuff that we will come back to on that again.